All right, welcome to episode 31 with Jason Schoonover. And the artist proofs have been printed. Everybody received their copy before me. I just got mine yesterday. And Jason and I are going to be the first to actually flip through the artist proof of my CROM Collected Revised Edition 2024. But before we get into that, I just want to give like a what the hell's going on to anybody that might be new. I, back in 2018, put together this nice little gem called CROM the Barbarian Collected, where I had collected Gardner F. Fox, John Junta, and Jack Katz's original Golden Age comics of CROM the Barbarian. I then added 4 more stories with ballpoint pen. And in my journey, I just felt like getting a variant version of these done in what I refer to as my, let me just grab this here, my values. So it's totally about using, oh, look, I'll get that mic out of the way here. So, yeah, there we go. So it's totally about the values of putting black and white and grays and using all kinds of mixed media, and then that scanning and printing from this original drawing then becomes what I always refer to as my final art piece, as well as the book together. So in this process, I reached out to 5 other individuals to get them to play with me on CROM and give me a pin-up that I'm also using as a virgin cover, if you will. So with that being said, I'm just going to take a second and show the other guys off. This is Adam Dodds. He did this doodly gobbledygook. We actually got to sit down. I got to sit down with Adam in episode 30, so you can check that out. We've got David Molina. So David Molina, we'll be getting together with him. Of course, Jason
his turned out really great.
I think, a lot of
David's might be my favorite.
a lot of it's very graphic and striking, and you guys are all so important to me that I would hate to say one is greater than the other, but I did.
Sure. No, it's not a qualifying statement. I just find I keep looking at his.
But I chose each one of you in a curated way to have that kind of like dimension to what you can bring to in a black and white independent comic book. Of course, we've got this great guy here, Jason Schoonover, which we're going to go through and talk about. And then Drawn Sword, who's out of New Zealand.
That one looks like it'd be on like one of those metal album covers that I can't read what the logo says.
Oh, yes. Well, that's definitely where he's coming from. And then, of course, I was able to get the man, Ken Landgraf. So, and he just released.
His is great, too.
He just released, there's a really great interview with him I have yet to watch on Power Comics. I'll leave a link in the description. And he just had his New York City Outlaws repackaged and back out on the shelves with Floating World. So he does an interview with them. So with that being said, there's one thing. Let me get this out of the way. I want Jason to. Jason, you have. So this is going to be something that I think people are going to maybe be a little confused, but not you, because you have an art history or an arts background. This is an artist proof. So what an artist proof is that this is printed before you go to the official print run. I have done 2 copies. I'm not going to sign mine right now. You can if you choose or want to, but the artist proof should be signed. As a matter of fact, you know what? I am going to do this. I'm going to do it right now.
Yeah, let's do it together.
So
let me grab my.
I have one of 2, and I'm going to marker it for June 2024. And then, of course, I give it the old signature. So when, when this life here for me is all said and done and everybody's scrambling to, buy and sell my art.
Yeah, we could hope.
It gets down to this whole if there's artist proofs, they have a greater amount of value at times, or people become very connected to the idea of having ephemera from the creative process of said, final product and everything. But, so I had 2 printed for myself only because I'm going to keep one pristine. And I think it's going to be this one. So now it's 2 of 2, June 2024. And then one just to have as that kind of like what it looks like crisp-wise, because I am going to be red markering it up, to be able to have my notes, because you officially are the first guest artist that I'm having this sit-down CROM Update podcast with to hear your feedback, questions, and being like, why did you make this decision, Kurt? Have you ever thought about making this kind of decision? To just like this might be a little less and this could be a little more, that type of thing. Because as I've been telling everybody, I want you to feel just as proud of having your art on the cover of my comic book, but it being very much being very much along, respecting you guys coming in as guest artists. So can you give me your first reaction to when you opened up the package and felt and saw your book, your copy?
Well, it was a rainy day, and the mailman so thoughtfully left it on my porch where the box got all wet. So at first I was like, "Oh no, it's ruined!" And then I opened it up, and it was perfectly fine.
Right.
And then I saw this beautiful print. Like, you really got I mean, I could try to do a comparison here, but like the whites are just as white as the original artwork. The blacks are very deep, which I really like. It gives it a lot more depth. And then the hand on the inside of the cover, love it. Matches up perfectly.
Yep.
When you flip back and forth with the cover in the inside, what do you call it? What is this, like title page, I suppose?
Yeah.
Well, I guess, no, this is the title page.
Yeah, I think this is like an end page.
Yeah, like we're pre-gaming the title page.
Correct.
Almost.
Correct.
But yeah, I was very excited to get this in the mail. I love like kind of the bare bones back cover too, where it's just CROM the Barbarian, Collected Revised 2024. It might be fun. Like, I know you said you were sending some of these off to like podcasts and stuff, but I mean, I don't know how you'd be able to get like pull quotes or something. But if you could get like some pull quotes, this area right here would be a great spot for like some pull quotes, just to kind of hype you up. Like when people look at the back, it gives them, not necessarily, you don't want to give them like, I think like a summary is a little bit too much, but if you get some pull quotes, like it's the bottom of a movie poster or something,
great idea.
That probably wouldn't be a bad idea.
Great idea.
But it is a very, what do you call it? Like everything, on the cover and on the back cover is pretty much like as it should be. It's not like busy. It's not overly complicated. You know exactly what you're getting when you open up this book. And then excellent write-up at the beginning, explaining kind of the different phases that CROM goes through. And then, here, let me turn the fan on, actually. Sorry. Let's see what we got. Yeah, and I really love your cleaned up artwork with the values. You know what I really liked about this artwork is it reminded me a lot of the kind of scratch board drawing you did on this one.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Because it's got a lot of those like really bright whites and the really dark darks. And then you also have like kind of the mark making but in reverse of the scratch board, which is always, I don't know. I like when you can kind of retain that style from like medium to medium. So that was something I noticed.
Yes.
I really like your layouts, especially your creative use of like panels kind of bleeding into other panels, and that kind of leads your eye down, and then you have this action that pulls you this way. The margins are definitely a lot better than in this one too. I know that was one of the contentions, because some stuff like, this text in this smaller one gets a little bit too close to the top, but everything is really, really centered, and nothing is in danger of like kind of getting in the trim there. Oh gosh, what else here? Yeah, I don't really have like any major critiques. I mean, like I said, I caught a typo somewhere in here, and I went back to look for it today because I was reading it on my bedside and didn't have anything to like notate it with, and I didn't want to dog ear it or anything.
Sure.
So I'll have to get back to you with that.
Okay.
And then, here's one actually right here. It's not necessarily a typo. It's just a capitalization thing. Like here you have craw capitalized,
right,
and then here and here you don't. And that is a sentence I did reread twice because I thought he was about to, like it was the beginning of a word and he got cut off.
Right.
Like for some reason my brain wanted to fill it in with like the savage heart of the mighty crazy. But I was like, well, no, it's craw. We just established it was craw. Right. So I think the capitalization would be something to. And I'm really hoping I could find that typo just by going through it like this, but I doubt I will.
Yeah, no.
I can't even remember what story it was in.
Yeah, if it pops up. No, this is exactly what I'm looking for. Exactly.
Good. I really love this giant character, too. This is a great panel right here. You might have to edit out a lot of my ums here. I apologize.
No.
This is great too. I love this drawing here. It almost reminds me of you ever see? I forget the artist's name, but he does those like animated charcoal drawings.
William
or
Kentridge?
did them. I think it was like maybe in the 70s. But
William Kentridge.
Yes, I think that's him. Yeah,
he's still around.
This you can almost see like. Is he really?
Yeah, I still I follow
William Cambridge. I didn't mean to.
I follow him. Yeah. Yeah.
I didn't mean to put you in the grave early. My bad.
So early.
But this one, you could almost see his brow like furrowing, and like there's a real like animation to this too.
Thank you.
And there was another one. I was looking at it this morning, and then I was curious. Are you going to do the original comics also in black and white too?
Yes. Yep. It's going to be an
on
entire
the final prints. Okay, yeah, because I like that because it's like I like the color in them is good, but like this does reduce very good down to grayscale. Like you don't lose anything on here, and in fact, I think it makes a lot more of like these like kind of shapes in the background pop. There was one set of shapes here. Where is it? Let me see if I could find it. I was looking at it. Yeah, this right here. Bottom of page 8 on the spider story. Like this whole tunnel scene here, this is like so much like what Frank Miller would do in like Sin City with like these kind of really reductionist kind of black and white things. And that's something I never noticed in the color version. So I think it's beneficial to have this in grayscale. I think it definitely like reads a lot more. It makes the drawings more interesting, I think.
Well, as a cohesive package, and I'll talk about it a little bit more.
Yeah.
This is a chronological book. So in other words, my stories are the beginning, which I call the beginning of his journey, which is youthful CROM. Then
youthful CROM, yeah.
We get into
adventurous, I believe.
Yep, adventurous CROM. And then the additional story, which is a prose story of CROM and the Warlock of Sharador, is his transforming story. And this is something that will be going on in conversation, because one of the ways I want to sell this book is to other individuals who would love to get involved in the CROM anthology. So this is like getting your feet wet and your hands muddy in digging around something,
Yeah.
which you guys also did in making your version of, because I sent you guys in the beginning a copy of the
Yeah.
2018. Now, it didn't have the CROM the Warlock Ashardor, and there was a lot of question on how do you bridge CROM being this kind of savvy, just dandy type barbarian swordsman into a dark god, and that happens in the CROM of Warlock Ashardor. So I'm looking forward to you guys' reaction. So having all the material sort of move along black and white, I think is going to be also easier for people to lift from, whether it's stylistically or just, character-wise or however it is.
Well, definitely like ups that contrast. And for me, I think that just kind of ups the readability of it. Like you could take a lot of it in a lot faster, it seems like.
Yep.
And then, I about page 3 into your prose here, since we were talking to Warlock of Charter, which I love the lettering you did on this. This is great. I like how it comes out of the skull biter and then kind of forms this like this crest, which is very appropriate since you talk about how this kind of leads into him becoming like King CROM.
Right.
And then again, these illustrations you got here, especially like all these like portraits you did, like I love this one's my favorite. Like this looks like something that you'd find on a Magic the Gathering card, But it's very much like out of the school of like Frazetta or Mobius or Heavy Metal. Like this looks like it belongs in like Heavy Metal magazine.
That's my wife's. That's my wife's favorite. That's my wife's favorite, and that's the one she believes is a self-portrait. So.
That's too funny. Yeah, you know what? I could see that for sure. You might be telling on yourself a little bit. But one of the things I was noticing, I really love how you kind of HDified, your like this too is like great. You have that silhouette, but also like the soft edges on the silhouette just to provide like the glow in the background. But you really elevated these ballpoint pen comics with your tones. It has such a charm to it, but it's very readable. The panels are they're very creative, but they're still easy to follow. But you can notice and it could just be a difference of material, but this is so much tighter. You went in, I'm assuming with the ballpoint pen, you didn't initially think you were going to be going back over with tones years later, or when you did it initially?
Yeah, let me jump in. The whole ballpoint pen thing was I was making my re-entry into the art world, and was taking time because I had to financially get myself in position, before I left my real job. But at that same time, and it took me 2.5 years to leave my real job. At the same time, I was doing Tuesday nights at the local art school, which is now closing, Delaware College of Art and Design, life drawing classes. So every Tuesday night, I was going and just drawing the figure, which is really the core essence of who I am. Now, one of my initial frustrations that had come out of this was I wasn't able to get enough drawing done because I was spending too much time sharpening pencils. So I started working in ballpoint pen just to keep my hand moving, just to keep going on and on. Now, I'm also at the same time looking for something in comic books that I would like to draw. Sword and sorcery is always my core passion. Found the public domain CROM the Barbarian, started collecting the material. And when I finally came to wanting to do these stories, I had really just the idea that the carrying of the eye between the words and the pictures were not going to be contrasted or juxtaposed by having the gutters. And so it was just really the kind of guardrails that I wanted to go about it. Now, go forward to 2023, when I start doing the gray value version of it, And I'm working with Jake Jacobs for a year or two at that point on Turbo Pit Fighter, which we have we now officially have the approval to move forward and get this printed. So you'll be getting a copy of this very, very soon.
Awesome.
For the exchange.
Ooh, I can't wait to read more of that.
But I'm also towing the line as I would like to do more inking as a comic book artist than penciling, inking, writing, drawing, all this kind of stuff. Yeah. So I consider this really more like a variant version of my own work, but I will be also doing a lot of variant version work of others in the CROM anthology, which is now going on there. So bringing it back to your very kind statements and the power of your observations. So far, you've hit everything, even by tickling me with giving that William Kentridge shout out, because he it's really funny, Jason. It's like, we always think of ourselves as trying to become as unique as possible. Identifiably, but we're always reaching out at other people. And William Kentridge actually,
for sure,
when I was leaving Trader Joe's, one of the guys I was working with, I was having open conversations about wanting to get back in the arts. Animation was one of those things I did want to get back into as well. And he had seen my work on Instagram. And he made that same jump. He goes, "You got to check this guy out, William Kentridge." And I was like, "Who?" He's like, "Oh,
no kidding."
Yeah. And the next thing you know I'm spending I think I spent about 6 months just researching him, watching everything on him, books. He does a lot of, what do you call them? Lectures. They're all over YouTube. So William Kent, Kent.
I might have to fall down that rabbit hole.
Ribge. But what he does is, and how he came about it was so propelling me and assuring me that following your own bliss as a creative artist person, it's a surefire thing for success. The timing is just going to be what has to come in connection to it. So
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I mean, even just for comparison, while you were talking, I brought up both of them, but and I love both of these because I love line. I'm a guy that you can hatch up anything, and I just love the texture that creates. I love everything about it. And then this is one of those things where it's you could read exactly what's going on. You could see blood splattered on his face. But I think when you approached it here, it definitely, not only did it up the contrast, but you changed a little bit of the pattern of the blood splatter. It looks more like a blood splatter. You know what I'm saying? It looks like there's more chaos juxtaposed with the hard grimace of his face there, which is supposed to be stoic or calm, some sort of in control. But, clearly the blood on his face kind of betrays that a little bit. But yeah, I mean, it's just, you really did turn this into something entirely different, but still maintain the spirit of what you have here, which I think is kind of an inker's job, the penciler does their thing and the inker comes in and adds their own stank on it, but it still has to retain some element, I think, of the pencils. That's where you get a good team going. And the other thing I really like about that too is I kind of do the same thing where I'll go back and look at stuff I'd done years before. I mean, that was what I did with Gut and Ghost, and then I made something completely different out of it that I originally intended. And I think those type of breadcrumbs that you leave for yourself, whether or not this was more of a extra homework you were giving yourself for life drawing, which is above and beyond. If you were to give this to any life drawing teacher at the end of the semester, they'd be like, "God damn, Kurt, what are you doing on your off time?" But you should be teaching this class, kind of thing. But I like that you had this extracurricular thing to go with the life drawing. You were following what you like about drawing, and then published it in a book. And then years later came back to him and be like, "No, I could still do more with this now that some time has passed and, I've crossed paths with other." I love stories like that where you're kind of leaving yourself like little breadcrumbs to like kind of pick up on in the future.
I think one of the biggest shames I hear so many times from other artists that I have the pleasure to meet, and usually in person this happens, is you'll get to know somebody, they trust you enough to then start showing you their earlier work, right? And I'm always, I love raw. I love raw in art. I don't care how it's finalized, but if you don't have something very raw in it, that's almost like a scab or it's just something that's festering underneath the surface, then I'm really not, I'm not holding it. I'm
not inherent in the process.
That's exactly it. And it's like, you almost gave up on this thing, but you didn't, and you let it lie for a night or a couple of days, and you came back and you're like, oh, well, all this really needs is another fresh coat of blue, and then you put that on there and bam, all of a sudden that happens. But this is the frustration I have with so many other creatives out there, especially in comics. I will see they'll let me see their first comic book. And they'll be like, oh, well, I didn't know how to do this. No, I didn't really know how to do this. Okay, well, redo it. Take already what the foundation is in the rawness and just work right over the top of it. The thing about these pages, by the way, these pages that I made are these pages blown up to 13 by 19 and printed out in with the black ballpoint lines. I just started making marks and corrections, if you will. And when I say corrections, it's not a mistake. It's just now I realized, like, one of the biggest things I came across was I no longer needed this head. So this head, I call it the floating head. It was just something I ended up just elaborating on in the ballpoint, which kind of like leads you back this way, and you think, oh, this is blah, 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 whatever. But I just said, no, this has got to go away. So this thing just gets completely eradicated, add some hair and stuff, and go from there. But you're looking at work on top of work. This is not sit down, start at the top left-hand corner, draw, finished. Oh, wow, you're so talented. Nope. I have the first story, is penciled. So then I did a Lightbox ballpoint pen version over there, but then the second story is a la prima ballpoint pen. In other words, I'm drawing just in ballpoint pen.
Yeah.
So
the thing I love about the ballpoint pen is like these little textures in the backgrounds with I mean, it's just cross hatching, but like you could have done straight lines, but you got these curvy lines. It had so much character. Like there's a bunch of vines hanging, like it could, your mind fills in so many things. And I love both of these things. I just happen to like love line and like, you can tell if you look at my work, but it's one of those things, like you said, though, when you come and revisit it, you find things that's like, well, I could have left this out here and there. I could have, and then, again, like I think the overall thing that you're left with is like, you just have that much sharper and striking of an image. And like when you're talking about with things that look rough, I think I have an affinity for that same type of thing as well. And yeah, you didn't even like lose that in any of your backgrounds on this, just comparing the two panels. Like if anything, it made it a little less vague, and now it looks like tree bark or something, you know, but it's still something to where your mind is still kind of filling in what it is, which I think, I don't know, that's the wonderful thing about art is you can abbreviate all these things like that. And with the different mediums allows you different ways in which you can abbreviate it.
Well, the way I use Instagram is I do look at it on my phone, but I actually spend a little bit more time on my desktop, because what I can do is I can save your profile in a browser folder. And that's what I was doing, because I was like, I want to start having conversations with people who are just making marks and art that might not be totally comic book centric. And so now David Molina was my first contact because I just don't see anybody making work like this in comics already. And he's just already already at a level that he would be able to enter comics. Now when I saw your scratchy black and white pen, I kept thinking, man, this guy has got to be doing like etchings, or there's something else he's not showing. He's not showing. Now, also, you guys, your guys' profiles, you're not sharing anything personal about your lives, and I respect that.
No.
But it was like, well, the worst case scenario is maybe I can just like reach out, find out a little bit more about him. And the worst case scenario is like, this guy Jason might be like, nah, not really into Conan or comic books and stuff like that. But let me just say to everybody right here and now, what Jason did when it came down to making his version of CROM is absolutely everything plus that I wanted somebody else to play around with. When it came to line, but you're even reaching back into the old masters, David and Goliath, and the Renaissance and paintings. So when you did this, you added this extra part. I remember saying to you in one of the past CROM updates, where I was like, "Oh, well, I'm definitely going to put that in on the end paper when you turn it and you see it." And look at this, like this is at all this. You did a lot of work. And this is the payoff right here.
Oh, yeah.
This is not flat black,
It
people.
really is. No.
This is not flat black.
Yeah, you can look closely in the print and you can see the little pinholes of light in there.
It's so delicious. It's so delicious.
It took me a long time to do that while we were getting our power or our electrical panel changed out. I was like just sitting in hotels and libraries, like, I'm going to draw a straight line after straight line, just losing my mind, like hoping it would be done. But it paid off. I think I channeled it in the proper place rather than yelling at my family or something.
Well, let me jump us all the way to the back because I've given all the guest artists a 2-page spread, and I wanna really bring attention. I want to bring attention to this because there's two things. There's two things I'm also dealing with when it comes to this publication and future publications with CROM Anthology. I have a huge problem with other artists out there, and the number one is I can never find them anywhere else other than social media. I will also say, Jason, one of the reasons the second reason I chose you in the way of reaching out and asking you to come on board is if somebody scans this QR code, they're going to go to your website, which you maintain, and do blogs on what you're working on, what else you're doing, all arts related. So each artist is getting a 2-page spread because if you didn't get the Jason Schoonover version or even mine or anybody else, you'll be able to get like a gallery, Adam Dodds, Ken Landgraf.
Yeah, make your own bootleg poster or something. And
then David Molina. So,
there's some great work in here, man.
It's so very important. So this book is scattered with QR codes. So my QR codes for KurtBrugel.com, CROMTheBarbarian.com, Gardner Francis Fox Library. It's all here. But we have got, when you get these old comic books and even new comic books, you just can't find any relative information about these people.
Yeah.
An email, how about?
Yeah, the only thing, the closest you'll get is like with like some of the Image comics will have like, just not even a QR code, just like, oh, you can find so-and-so on Instagram at blah, 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 or so-and-so's website. Like, I think Tom Neely always puts his website on all of his books or whatever. But I like the QR code. It's such an easy way to be like, oh, let me save your information. Like I went to what do you call it? A life drawing thing at the library on Saturday. It was like really casual, like people can, hang out and draw amongst themselves and stuff. But I was talking to people and like at the end of the night, it's like, oh, let me get your Instagram. And we all whipped out our phones and
Sure.
pulled up the QR code. It's so much easier than like sitting there and be like, did I type this right? Is this the right profile? You know, the QR code, you don't even got to think about it. Just scan, takes you there, hit follow or explore, whatever it leads you to, essentially.
Right. Because it's about, for me right now, is the community building. And that's what I'm getting more and more excited, because you know, the chances that I took in reaching out to you guys, you know, and God bless, none of you guys were crazy. You know, you know what I mean? And I said,
I mean, it really paid off, Kurt. Like, this is something else, man.
I said this to Adam. One of the major reasons I wanted to get some other people involved, whether it was just this pinup, was to keep me honest to getting to completion. And I'll tell you, when you guys started submitting your work, I was like, I got to raise my game. I've got to really raise my game, because these guys, I don't want these guys getting a copy of their book, you know, and go, oh, okay, cool. Yeah, okay, cool. Yeah, he just did that. I want you guys to be like, oh, I'm a part of something. Oh, wow, this is something. Absolutely. I'm excited, and I'd like to keep contributing. And you know, and you keep your independence. You know, it's not all about not all about me and what I want. It's about what we can come up with together.
It's still kind of in service of like this vision you have. And I think you know, again, like what you did, unlike what a lot of people do. There's actually, you know, I just got a Kickstarter comic in the mail from Hundo Industries. They put out Tech Noir, and that book seems very similar to what you got going on here. Where like, they had this like overarching story in the book, but everybody handles 3 to 4 pages, and like each page, each like artist break or whatever is almost like a short story that leads you to the conclusion at the end of the comic. But like again, it kind of goes back to what you're doing here, is like, it's in service of this like one vision that you had. You already had a lot of this pretty much like not necessarily done, but you had the roughs for it that were like, this is what, like, you had a really good elevator pitch for it, I think is what it is. And coming to people with something that's like, listen, let me send you this.
Yep.
If you're on board, let me know. Here's what I want to do.
Yep.
And I mean, this was the ticket right here. I mean, you had already done like 80, 90% of the legwork. It's just, let me reach out to some people, see if they'd want to play. I got these other stories that I'm working on. And I mean, it was truly a collaborative thing. And then, like you said, I mean, like, kind of seeing what other people are working on and being like, oh man, like, I really got to take this a little more seriously. It like introduced this element of competition, but not necessarily in a way that like I'm trying to beat any other artist. It's like, oh no, I need to make sure that I'm on par with I'm putting in the amount of effort that everybody else is on this book. I can't just like phone this in the night before, you know?
Yep. And like I said, I believe I got beyond the best out of each of you guys. And so, yes, I want to kind of tie us up here, because I got a couple things I want to share, but you have a couple of things to share as well before we jump out of here, because that's what this platform is all about, is what not only CROM is all about and Kurt Brugel's all about, but also what Jason Schoonover is working on and everything. But yes, in here, there is a call for collaborations. It's an open call. This gives a really good understanding. My email is right here, kurtbrugel@gmail.com. You can also scan to get to my website. I have multiple ways of people getting in contact with me, but if you want to directly get in contact with me, it's going to be kurtbrugel.com. Also, I work with an incredible other independent comic book artist by the name of Jake Jacobs. We actually worked together back in the 90s. We've been working every Sunday for the last 2 years plus now, working on an old comic book. Issue number 1, Turbo Pit Fighter. I'm inking it. Jake's on Turbo issue number 2, and we've been doing these Turbo teasers. So this is the first 12 pages of our comic, and what we do is we do an exchange. It's called Indie Creator Exchange. I send a comic to a creator. The creator sends it back to myself, and then we set up a time where on Turbo Pit Fighters podcast, we get together and we talk about comics, making them, and how to kind of kind of create a stand, if you will, in the industry and go from there. But I have to also say, Jason Schoonover has just released his Gut and Ghost. So Jason, I want to turn it back to you because I got my copy, and Jason will be getting his copy of the Turbo Teaser #2. These are going to print on my side of the fence here in the next week or so. And so maybe in about 3 weeks, I guess, you'd be getting a copy. And, of course, an invite to come on to Indie Comic Exchange. Link in the description. But, Jason, share more about Gut and Ghost and how things are going with that.
For sure. So, yeah, I mean, we'll just go back to when you initially contacted me, back when Gut and Ghost was just this little mini fold-out comic. It was only a humble 3 pages with a little "Will the light turn on again?" and our favorite QR code, which I don't think the QR code works. I was still trying to figure out how QR codes work at this point.
It's all right.
A couple of advertisements for myself because I thought that'd be fun. And then eventually I put out this version of Gut and Ghost, another fold-out zine, new cover. This old one was inspired by The Odd Couple. This one is inspired by Laverne and Shirley. So I very much love the idea of putting these two guys in place of like other famous duos. Especially, I couldn't resist trying to draw a pile of guts riding a bike, which I think I did pretty well at. That's one of my favorite drawings I've done.
Nice.
But, same 3 pages, but page 4 and page 5 where things get really off the rails. And then, eventually that outgrew this and became this. I did a new cover. This one is after, I forget the issue of Batman and Robin, but it's a pretty iconic cover where Batman's, got his cape flowing and Robin's here and the spotlight's on him. And I was like, oh, the cape would be really fun to turn into flailing intestines. So I did that. But this also comes with, the story's 9 pages. So it's still pretty short, but it has a beginning and an end, and it has a point to where we can continue, which I'm currently working on now. I can show off some of those storyboards there that I've got. But it also comes with 3 one-page comics that I made at the same time as I was doing this, because, sometimes you got to walk away from something and do something else for a little bit and then come back to it. So if you flip after page 9, I got some old sketchbook stuff that went into the creation from all the way back to 2015 to where I picked it up in May of 2023 and into May of 2024, which is the edition you hold in your hand now. The old covers blown up, from their original size. So you get those in a much more detailed kind of look. And then 3 additional comics. One about toilets switching places while you don't look. The second one, I just took the opening lyrics for a Sonic Youth song called Incinerate and illustrated that. And then this last one, I was trying to just attempt to do like kind of a diary comic, very much inspired by like Brandon Graham's diary comics. His are a little bit more asymmetrical. Mine are definitely a lot more gridded, but I think I kind of landed on something that was like, I like the rawness of this. I almost redid the text, but I think it was clear enough to where I was like, I don't need to do that. And it looks fine, if maybe a little unbalanced, but I think that there's kind of a charm to that. But yeah, you can get this. You can go to my website and hit shop. That'll take you directly to my Shopify. You can buy it on there. I also have a digital version available. And that'll give you the PDF that you can read on any device that, allows you to read PDFs. And you also get the page layout. So if you would rather have something physical to hold in your hands, you can take the page layouts and print your own bootleg Gut and Ghost.
So cool.
All for the price of $3. So you can save on shipping, and it costs less than, you got to try to make a little bit of profit on this, or at least break even. So, yeah. And then, in case anybody thinks this is the last you've seen of them, rest assured it is not. I have an outline I wrote up here, and then I've been slowly kind of chipping away at that outline with some thumbnails here, which I've just been doing in the fountain pen in this little teeny tiny sketchbook. I felt like this is a good system here, rather than drawing little teeny tiny pages and trying to box in the compositions. But yeah, I got thumbnailed up to page 8. And I don't know how many pages it's going to be, but I'm definitely a little bit more, I'm tightening up the process with the continuation, whereas like Gut and Ghost 1, I was kind of making it up as I went along. I didn't really script much. But this one I wrote an outline, and then I'm kind of writing the script as I'm drawing the thumbnails. I'm still working on what my process is exactly, but I think I kind of hit on something that's working for me and is like, it's producing something that's coherent when I have showed people.
Nice.
But yeah, that's pretty much what I got.
And you and I are also currently working on our own CROM comic story.
Yes.
In collaboration. Right now, it's sort of it's about 6 pages. You're going to end up penciling. I'll end up inking. But we're also meeting.
Yeah.
We're meeting when we can because this is a low stress project. We're not trying to run
For sure.
a full optimal organization. But I'm super excited about sharing more and more about that. As we have past episodes in the CROM the Barbarian blog. As well as videos. I videotape a podcast and insert it inside the podcast, but the blog post.
Yeah.
But
if you like, I could talk a little bit. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Well, no, I was just going to say I'd like to keep that just a little bit on the mysterious side because the focus will be the release of CROM the Barbarian Collected 2024 revised edition.
Yeah.
I am feeling pretty optimistic as things are moving right now that I would be doing a August release. Now, here's the tricky part, people.
Okay.
The tricky part is going to be these covers, which are, they're virgin covers by 4 other artists. What happened here? Here we go. All right. So the tricky thing is going to be that for the month of August, strongly tentatively, that entire month, these books will be in release mode. So this will be mine will be the official forever version that you can get a hold of. I'll actually be selling them through Amazon as well as my own website. But each of the guest artists I have, which were 5 of them, will have the virgin cover, which then we got Jason, Drawn Sword, Ken Landgraf, Adam Dodds, and David Molina. You will only be able to get a hold of them for the month of August. They will be at the same retail price as my cover and my version. The interiors are obviously the same in all versions. But there's the kicker, and I'm hoping this really works well for the guest artists that I have working. Based on the success of the book, I will be providing as compensation copies of the virgin covers to the guest artists. After August 31st, if somebody contacts me and they say, oh, hey, I really, really like the Jason Schoonover version, but I see it's out of stock. When will it come in back in stock or blah, blah, blah. I'll say, hey, why don't you contact Jason Schoonover and see if he still has copies and you can secure it from him. As a community, I want anybody that collaborates to feel almost like the entirety of being involved in the process, even the business side of it. And I think part of that business side is that the exclusivity that I want to have in this is going to put it back towards the guest artist. That any attention I get, I will get the attention that I deserve just based on what it is I'm providing for the project and the community. But when it comes down to somebody's aesthetic, I think I've done really well because, you might like to be involved in the project and get a hold of the guts of this book, but you might be digging one of these other fellas' work as the cover version you would like, and even investigate more about those artists. I also want to tease out that I'm working with everybody involved. I'm still tweaking out some things with Ken Landgraf, but for the most part, Drawn Sword has some material that he's going to be collecting and putting together, so he might be sharing a gallery of that work with us. David Molina and I are working on a collaborative CROM World Adjacent story. And then
Yeah.
Adam Dodds has just started clearing the real world restraints of having real job and all that kind of fun stuff. So he's starting to free up some time. So he's actually starting to generate some ideas as well. But with that,
good.
with all of that being said, I have nothing else to say or add, but I do want to encourage people that when the time comes, support us and the community in any way you can. Even liking the videos, following the channel, subscribing to the newsletter, which I'll be up and running from the Barbarian.com blog. But if this strikes your fancy, you just might have found a really good group of people. I just also want to take one more time to thank Jason for putting together his cover for CROM Collected Revised Edition 2024.
Yeah.
And also just being a great collaborator in all of this, and I'm looking forward more and more to work with him, as well as watching and being inspired from his website and his Instagram, which will be linked down in the description. But that's all I have for these people. Jason, we'll let them get back to reading comics, making if they choose. Do you have anything else for them?
Absolutely.
Do you have anything for them on the out?
No, I mean, comment on the video if I said anything incorrect. I'm sure Kurt can use that engagement. Thank you again for having me on your podcast
You're
and for
welcome.
inviting me to join with you guys. And yeah, I'm very happy to contribute. It was a lot of fun.
Awesome. Well, I look forward to the next time we get to hang out, and you take care. We'll see you soon.
All right, you too, Kurt.